Hey, what's up, guys? I'm going to be reacting to Beauty Potential's video. He discovered the habits that destroy facial beauty and was ignored.
When Weston Price said beauty is not genetic, he came with receipts. During a period of history where part of each society was industrialized and another part lived the traditional way, he documented that modernized communities suffered from misaligned teeth and jaws, where isolated traditional communities did not.
And yeah, this is very obvious, and that's because the traditional people moved away from their traditional eating habits and then ate the processed crap, which is mostly processed grains and seed oils. That is the leading cause of why this widespread physical degeneration happened.
Price wrongly said that this was wholly down to nutrition, and he's got some obsessive fans up to the modern day. He visited Swiss, Gaelic, Inuit, North American Indian. He said readers of his work, Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, will see in a, quote, large percentage of white families the progressive narrowing and lengthening of the face in the younger members of the family as compared with the older. In
Okay, so this guy's trying to say that it's not mostly about nutrition, but how though? Because does this guy not realize that your entire body, including your bones, are made out of nutrients, right? So how do you think your body grows, right? So we aren't plants, we don't photosynthesize nutrients. So our bodies grow from the foods we eat. And if we aren't eating foods, especially fat-soluble vitamins and animal fats required to grow bones, then our bones simply will not grow and will become deformed and narrow.
1930s, this was a new problem. Today, we have no collective memory of the times before that shift. Introduce processed foods, grains, and sugars to a diet, and you get faces and jaws that grow wrong. His research was so extensive, and his evidence
But that's literally because there's not enough building materials, nutrients to grow the face forward.
so compelling that people today still believe him 100%. Now, this is actually bad news for future generations because it's not the full story. Don't get me wrong, the thesis is good, but it's dangerously incomplete.
He is trying to say that eating proper food and living naturally is sort of incomplete from the beauty quadrant. But I'm saying if you eat proper food, then you'll naturally have proper mouth posture, right? But I'll explain this later.
Price said that maxillary bones grow wrong, causing breathing problems. This is the wrong way around, and modern science proves it. His views on diet should also be questioned. While his followers believe that nutrients are the sole answer to abundant health and facial development,
They aren't the sole answer, but they are the foundation, right? Because you could have the best breathing, the best mouth posture in the entire world, but if you're not getting enough nutrients to actually grow bones, then your bones won't grow. It's common sense.
worry is anti-nutrients that cause chronic inflammation. Introduce foods that inflame some and don't inflame others, and some will suffer from health and facial declines, and the others won't.
But this guy probably won't explain why some people are affected by it and some people aren't. But let's see.
Same diet, different inflammatory response, and different facial development. Blocked noses lead to mouth breathing, and open mouths lead to maxillary bones growing wrong. But not
This is what I'm saying. Why do you think that people's noses become blocked? It is because of their poor diet, right? So people become inflamed from their poor diets, which cause two things. They first of all cause these airways in your nose that go to the back of your throat to be underdeveloped. So therefore your breathing will naturally be more labored. Second of all, when you eat crappy food, you'll of course be inflamed, and as a natural consequence of that, you'll have nasal congestion. So it all really boils down to your nutrition though.
everyone is affected by airway inflammation in the face of terrible diets. This is Richard Ramirez. The majority of his diet was sugars and cheap processed grains.
According to who, though? Because, first of all, there are a lot of accounts saying that he went hunting with his father and that he ate meat too, though. Okay, so obviously, if he ate crappy food after his puberty window, then it obviously doesn't matter. Second of all, this entire argument is besides the point, though, because Ramirez's heritage is Mexican, which therefore means that he has indigenous ancestry, right? So My entire thesis is that you inherit your ancestors' vitality. And basically, so if your ancestors were healthy people, then they will pass those healthy traits down onto you. That's literally what epigenetics is. And there's so much evidence to corroborate this. That's why the mainstream came up with the term epigenetics, that your habits now shape your genetic expression and therefore the genetic expression of your future generations. So even if Richard Ramirez ate crappy food growing up, if he hypothetically had a kid and raised that kid on the same bad food, he'd be guaranteed to have a worse bone structure than him, even if he has proper mouth posture.
Diet doesn't always lead to bad facial development, and this is problematic for Price's acolytes.
Yeah, but this guy is forgetting one thing. As I've said before, your body and your bones are made out of the food you eat, right? So if you aren't getting enough physical material to build bones, then obviously you're not going to have this chiseled jaw.
This doesn't say that mouth posture, eating forces of how to eat, swallowing, and body posture all contribute to facial declines.
Okay, but with these tribal people you showed earlier, right, who had these totally straight teeth and proper jaws, do you seriously believe that the tribal people were teaching their kids how to swallow properly, how to have proper posture, and like how to have mouth posture? No, it just comes naturally when you're properly nourished. That's why I'm saying that the beauty quadrant is downstream from the health quadrant. If you're healthy during puberty, you'll naturally have all of these four things. Because this guy's sort of acting as if kids randomly decide one day, oh, I'm just going to breathe through my mouth now. No, there's something that's causing them to breathe through their mouth, and that's because their nose is blocked because of their crappy diet.
And that is wrong. But let's talk about the other side of the coin. Someone who doesn't address the health quadrant at all. This is John Mew, who believes the complete opposite of Price. Mouth posture, chewing, swallowing, and body posture are the only things that Mew talks about, and Mew tested it on his sons. There's Mike, who fulfilled John's orthotropic expectations, and there's Bill. Bill was on the same program as Mike. He ate the same foods, he was told to swallow hard, to stand up straight, and to keep his mouth shut. That last part, that was Bill's problem, a mouth posture problem. Bill couldn't keep his mouth shut. He was chronically inflamed. Same exact diet, same exact instructions, eating the same food as his brother Mike. Very different results.
This guy literally just proved that it all comes down to food. Because guess what? If Bill ate proper food, then he would have never been inflamed in the first place. And he would have naturally breathed through his nose. So this guy on the bottom here literally proved it all comes down to food. Now, what you can't argue is, why did Mike not get inflamed from bad food, but Bill did? What I could say is that it all depends on the health of the mother when you are conceived. Maybe she had a higher toxic load. Maybe she was less nourished. There could be a plethora of reasons why Bill here was more susceptible to inflammatory foods. But you cannot argue that food was not the foundation here, because it obviously was.
So, what's actually happening here? If we want to understand exactly why some faces develop wrong, we can't sit wholly on either side here. This issue is too complex, too important, and too personal to fall for magic bullets. There are indirect factors, like diet, and there are direct forces, like mouth posture.
What? How is eating food indirect? It's literally flipped because everybody who grows up eating proper food and is nourished naturally have good posture. They naturally swallow properly and they naturally eat and chew things properly because the food you put into your mouth dictates how your bones and muscles grow. So how is eating food indirect? It's literally what allows your body to grow. So if you don't eat any food, you die. So what makes you think that eating a poor diet makes you attractive?
Indirect forces either support or undermine the direct forces. When the health quadrant is strong, breathing, diet, exercise, and vitamin D, and the beauty quadrant is strong, mouth posture, how to eat, swallowing, and body posture, only then do you have the foundation of consistent natural facial development so faces achieve their potential. You need
Does this guy not realize that all the tribal people that have perfect faces, their parents never told them to breathe through their noses or to do any of these beauty quadrant measures? It simply happens naturally because breathing through your nose is a byproduct of natural development. It is not the cause of proper development.
both sides to support optimal facial development. Here's what the science has since proven. When we became industrialized, our breathing got worse from early 20th century pollution. Our exercise levels dropped, our vitamin D levels drastically dropped, and our diets became much more inflammatory. And
But once again, though, he's basically proving my four pillars. Because in my private community, I have four pillars that I talk about. And it's your diet, your sleep, your sunlight, and your environmental toxins, right? So if you get those four things in order, aka live naturally, everything else will fall into place. So this guy's literally proving my points because his two quadrants are not very coherent. Because once again, what caused people to have poor mouth posture was because of the poor air conditions. But if their air conditions were optimal, then they would have never have had this problem in the first place.
Everything here was affected, and this beauty quadrant has a direct, measurable, and scientifically proven effect on how faces develop. Price did not account for most of that. And if you don't with your kid, you're potentially exposing them to facial declines too. Yes, a healthy diet is key, but
Wait, what? Refer back earlier into the video. He says that anti-nutrients from grains cause inflammation and therefore makes you breathe through your mouth. Okay, so we have seeds here, grains, more grains, seeds. Is this seriously the diet that he is recommending here? Yeah, no wonder people are inflamed because there's tons of inflammatory things in here. Like veggies can be inflammatory to many people, seeds are. So this guy literally just debunked himself, though.
all these other things that Price never acknowledged.
What this guy doesn't realize is that once again, literally zero of these tribal people taught their kids to breathe through their nose because it literally happens naturally when you're properly nourished.
Give siblings exactly the same diet and you can get very different results.
Once again proves it comes down to food because this right guy, for whatever reason, became inflamed from his diet and therefore breathed through his mouth and therefore has a poor structure. So it's a self-perpetuating cycle. I'm not saying that your mouth posture doesn't matter at all. It does, but it's simply a byproduct of proper nourishment.
Most people say, well, then it's genetics. This is false. You need to remove any source of inflammation from inflammation.
But this guy literally put seeds in the optimal diet like a couple minutes back. Weird.
People. Then you don't get a blocked nose, which corrupts mouth posture, swallowing, and body posture. Price was a what to eat guy, a part health quadrant guy. Nothing else mattered to him. Mew, a beauty quadrant guy, except he didn't address the cutlery problem. And neither of these approaches work for everyone. For consistent results, you cannot pick one side. Beauty and health are entwined. So
No, they're not, because beauty is a byproduct of health. What do humans find beautiful? It's proper development and nourishment. That is what people define as beauty, right? A properly developed maxilla, jaw. It comes down to three things: your health indicators, your development, and your quote-unquote genetics. And as I've said before, your genetics comes from your ancestors. So if your ancestors were healthy for hundreds of years, then they will pass on good genes to you. If your ancestors were unhealthy peasants, then they will pass on bad traits to you.
all tenets of the beauty quadrant and all tenets of the health quadrant. You can learn how in the first 56 pages of Beauty Potential, how
Oh, this guy sells a book?
beauty is retained or lost.
Look, so he has a health quadrant and the beauty quadrant. I do not believe that the health quadrant is breathing, exercise, vitamin D, and what to eat and when. That's false. My four pillars that I have on my private community are your diet, sunlight, and sort of light exposure in general, sleep, and environmental toxins. That's what I have because those are the four things which actually matter. Breathing is downstream from everything else. And this beauty quadrant is once again a byproduct of the health quadrant. They are not intertwined because if you have good health, you'll naturally have good body posture, you'll naturally swallow properly, and you'll naturally have proper mouth posture, right? So overall, this guy is like partially right, but also wrong for the most part. And yeah, so if you actually want to know how things work and how to actually develop properly and how to become attractive and how to have maximum health, then that's all laid out in my private community. Like I talk all about that stuff. So yeah, guys, thanks for watching. See ya.